Your birthday is coming up, and someone asks you the usual question. So, what are you doing for your birthday? And you give the one answer that always confuses people. Nothing. It's just another day. And suddenly, you're the strange one. Your friends think something must be wrong. Your family says you're being difficult. And society acts like if you don't blow out candles or post a smiling photo online, then something inside you must be broken. But what if nothing is wrong with you? What if you're actually more self-aware than people think? Because psychologists have studied this behavior. And what they discovered says a lot more about the people judging you than it says about you. So if you've ever skipped celebrating your birthday, stay with me, because the reason might be sadness, maturity, or something much deeper. Let's start with the group nobody talks about, the ones who stopped celebrating, not because they wanted to, but because life slowly taught them not to expect anything. In 1967, psychologist Martin Seligman discovered something unsettling. He called it learned helplessness. When a person experiences disappointment over and over again and feels like they have no control over the outcome, their brain eventually stops trying. Not because they are weak, but because the brain becomes efficient. And birthdays are basically a machine for expectations. Here's the science. Your brain runs on predictions. Neuroscientists discovered that dopamine, the chemical linked to motivation and happiness, doesn't only respond to rewards, it responds to the difference between what you expected and what actually happened. Imagine this. You're young. You expect the party. You expect friends to remember. You expect to feel special. But when those expectations are broken, not once, not twice, but year after year, your brain starts adjusting. It stops predicting the reward. It stops releasing the dopamine. And eventually, you stop caring. Not because you don't want to care, but because your brain decided that hoping hurts more than forgetting. So when someone calmly says, "It's just another day," listen carefully. That sentence isn't apathy. It's armor, built slowly from emotional scars. But not everyone who skips their birthday carries scars. There's another group entirely, and on the surface, they look completely different. These are the people who genuinely forget their own birthday. Not because they're sad, not because they're avoiding it, but because their mind is running 17 tats at once. Psychologists call this time blindness, and it's more common than you think. When someone is deeply focused on work, goals, deadlines, or building something meaningful, time begins to blur. Days blend together. Weeks disappear. Their calendar stops feeling like a schedule and starts looking more like abstract art. These people are not avoiding their birthday. Their brain simply filed it under, not urgent, right next to that dentist appointment they've rescheduled 4 times and that to-do list that looks more like a novel. It's not that they don't care about themselves. It's that they care about so many other things that one day quietly slips past. Sound familiar? And then there's the third group, the most misunderstood one. These are the people who didn't forget. They're not hurt. They're not avoiding anything. They simply looked at the whole idea of birthday celebrations and thought, "I'm good." They genuinely don't need it. And if that sounds like you, there's actually science behind that too. Psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan spent decades studying human motivation. Their research became known as self-determination theory. One of their most important findings was this: the healthiest form of happiness comes from within. Not from external validation, not from social rituals, and definitely not from 30 people singing loudly to you in a restaurant. People in this group discovered something called the hedonic treadmill, a cycle where people keep chasing the next celebration, the next milestone, the next moment that promises happiness, and every time it fades faster than expected. But some people step off that treadmill. They stop outsourcing their joy. Think about that. While others wait for one day a year to feel special, these people learned how to feel whole on an ordinary Tuesday. And here's the interesting part. When you don't need a birthday to feel valued, it makes other people uncomfortable. Because it challenges their assumptions. They believe everyone needs the same rituals, the same celebrations, the same attention. But some people already answered that question for themselves. They don't need a calendar reminder to feel like they matter. They already know. But not everyone reached this place peacefully. Let's go back for a moment. Imagine you're 8 years old. It's your birthday. You've been counting down for weeks. You told your friends at school. You imagined the balloons, the cake, the moment everyone gathers just for you. And then the day arrives, and it's quiet. Maybe the people you hoped would come didn't. Maybe someone forgot. Maybe the whole day felt smaller than the version you imagined. And you didn't cry, not where anyone could see. You just quietly adjusted your expectations. Next year, you expected a little less, and the year after that, even less. Researchers discovered something called the anniversary effect. Our brains don't just remember emotional days, they relive the feeling every year. Your calendar moves forward, but your brain remembers. That 8-year-old version of you is still there, waiting. But there's another possibility we need to consider. Not everyone who skips their birthday is doing it from strength. Psychologist Jennifer Crocker studied something called contingencies of self-worth. She discovered that some people disconnect from celebrations, not because they're free from needing them, but because they're afraid. Afraid that if they allow themselves to hope, and the day doesn't go perfectly, it will confirm something painful they already suspect. So they opt out, not from confidence, but from protection. And that difference matters. There is a big difference between someone who doesn't need the party and someone who secretly wants it, but refuses to admit it. So if you're listening to this, ask yourself honestly, is it freedom? Or is it fear? Only you know. And the fact that you're reflecting on it right now already says something about you. Maybe we've misunderstood birthdays all along. We've been taught that celebration equals love, that if you don't make a big deal about your birthday, something must be wrong. But what if we've been measuring the wrong thing? What if the real sign of self-love is not needing a celebration to prove your worth? Maybe someone watching this spent their last birthday alone. Not because nobody cared, but because the silence finally felt enough. If that's you, you're not broken. You belong to a quiet group of people who don't need permission to feel whole. But just in case you needed to hear it, here it is. You're allowed. And if this video found you today, maybe it wasn't an accident. Protect your peace.